So today I wanted to share with you all of the books that I'm hoping to read in the month of April. The thing is that for the past couple of weeks, I haven't been interested in anything that I already physically own. Like all the books that I have, I'm not so down to read for one reason or another. So I actually had to work very hard to grab a handful of books off of my shelf that I want to share with you guys. And these books I think have a better chance of getting read in the next couple of weeks than the other books on my physical TBR. But to be very honest with you, I'm not dying to read any of them. So we'll see what ends up happening. The other thing is that it's actually, my birthday month. My birthday is April 7th, which means that I have a reason to buy any book that I want. So I actually just made a video, I'll have it linked down below, of my birthday wish list, all of the books that I kind of want to get this month because they're calling out to me more than all the books that I currently own. And if I do end up buying any of those books that were mentioned in my previous video, then I will end up reading them right away. I've kind of started to do this thing where I want to kind of, shorten my physical TBR. And by doing that, I'm not buying as many books. So I will buy a book if I want to read it, but I'll only buy one or two books at a time. And then the second that it shows up, I'll read it right away. And therefore, I'll read it and then it won't end up sitting on my TBR forever because I have so many books where I had bought them when I bought a ton of books at once. And then I read a couple of books from that shipment and then a handful of them just ended up sitting on my shelves. And now they're too comfortable there. They're just part of my TBR and I never want to read them, if you know what I mean. So I've kind of tried to flip the switch of how I do book buying sort of stuff. And now I'm just reading everything that shows up in the mail right away. So if I do end up buying any of the books from that previous video, I will read them right away. And therefore all of those books, if they end up getting purchased, they are on my April TBR, if that makes sense. But with that said, I'm also thinking about starting my Throne of Glass reread. So I have read this series twice so far, and the last time I did it was, I think, this time last year, March, April time, and I'm ready to do it again. It's been calling out to me for a while. I plan to do an audio and a physical reread. So I'm going to listen to it on audio. And then when I have a chance to pick up the physical book, I'll jump back into where I left off and I'll read it physically. That's what I've done in the past two times that I read this series because I'm a really big fan of the audiobook person that narrates this series. So I think I'm going to start this month, which means that is 8 books on my April TBR that if I end up getting into it and it ends up going really quickly, I might actually read the whole thing this month. So that is that. And it happens to be, if I end up finishing this really quickly, then I might start my ACOTAR reread. Whenever I do finish my Throne of Glass reread, I'm going to go straight into my ACOTAR reread. But we'll see how long it takes because I've read this series before and I'm in no rush to run through it. So we'll see what happens, but hopefully this will be started this month. I also am hoping to possibly start the Like Us series by Krista and Becca Ritchie. So this is the spinoff series to the Addicted Calloway sister universe, whatever you want to call it. And this series is about their children. It's about the children that we had met in the original series having relationships with their bodyguards. So, I'm excited to read this, but also it's been sitting on my shelf for too long that now it's just it's part of my shelf, and I'm just, for some reason, I'm not itching to pick it up. It's a big deal in my brain to start spin-off series, especially when we're going to see how, the people that we already fell in love with had grown up and they've raised their children and now their children are having problems and dramas themselves. And it's a big deal to jump into something like that. So I've been pushing it off for a while, but I'm thinking that I have nothing else that I physically want to read. And I love the Addicted Calloway world. So I should probably get started on this spin-off series. And if I do end up reading it, I might end up vlogging it only because I have vlogged all of the other books in this universe. So I feel like let's just keep up with the trend because why the hell not? So I might do that. We'll see what happens. Next, I'm hoping to read Redeemed by Lauren Asher, which is the 4th and final book in the Dirty Air Companion series. It's just about different Formula One race car drivers, each having their own romance. They all know each other. Most of them are friends and, they each get their own romance and they intertwine a little bit because you get to see all of the characters, overlap, stuff like that. This book specifically is about the brother from the girl in the first book. And I have heard that this is the best book in the series. So I'm kind of ready to actually finally read it because I have read the first 3 books over the past couple of months. Like, I'm pretty sure I read the first and the second book like way back in the summertime, like maybe August, September. And then I took a really large break between reading book 2 and book 3. But I've been really wanting to like just finish up the series. So now that I finally like have read book 3, I put it on my March TBR and I actually read it. I'm ready to get to this one. So hopefully I will enjoy it, and hopefully it will be true that it is the best one in the series, because none of the books in this series so far have gotten a 5 stars for me, but I think the first one had gotten a 4 star. So this does have a possibility of getting a 5 star. So hopefully I will enjoy it and actually read it this month. Next, I have Nice Guys Don't Win by Michaela Schmelzer. So I might be saying the author's name wrong, and I apologize if I am, but this is the second book in the Bad Boys Break Hearts companion series. At least I think that's what the companion series is called, but the first book is called Bad Boys Break Hearts. And I had read that book, I don't know, maybe 2-3 months ago, and it was pretty solid. The thing is that I already owned book 2 and book 3 even before I had read book 1. So now I'm kind of stuck with either like not continuing on with the series or seeing if like it gets better as we go. So I'm thinking about maybe picking up book 2 in the series this month. We'll see what happens though. I don't know much about this book specifically, besides for the fact that it's like a college sports romance. I think that the guy is a baseball player, because that's what like the first book was. I think the first guy was a baseball player too. But either way, this is some sort of like roommate situation. This girl ends up becoming roommates with like this guy who I think is like, you know, the star player of the baseball team that her father happens to be the coach of. So, I mean, it sounds interesting. It sounds intriguing, good situation to be in. So maybe I actually will read it this month. Next, I have Top Secret by Sarita Bowen and Elle Kennedy. So this is a very tiny book, like not even 270 pages, maybe just 270, 272 or so, I don't know. But it's a very tiny book, and it should be a very quick and easy read. It used to be a very popular book. Like, I used to see it on my feed all of the time. So I had randomly bought it like months ago, and then I just never got around to it. So it's been sitting on my shelf for long enough. I think it's finally time to just like take half a day and actually read it, because I do think it will be really good. I'm pretty sure it's about these 2 guys that are like college hockey players, and they don't get along in real life, but they're like talking to each other online and like, you know, kind of flirting or whatever, not realizing who they really are in person. So it's kind of like that whole situation of like, you know, double talking. I hate you in real life, and I don't realize that you're the same person that I'm having a crush on online. And I don't know if like both of them are out of the closet, both of them aren't out of the closet, maybe just one of them is. I don't know like the dynamics of it, but I'm kind of down to find out. So I might actually pick this up this month. We will see. So I didn't really mean to make this TBR very like sports romance heavy, but happens to be I have one more book to share with you that is a sports romance book, and that is The Summer Games by R.S. Gray. So a couple months ago, I had read a handful of R.S. Gray books, maybe like 6, 7, I don't know, maybe 10 R.S. Gray books. And I just bought them all at once, and then I read all of them besides for this one. At one point I was like, okay, I've had enough, and then this one just got left behind. That's why I'm trying to stop buying so many books at once, because I always end up with like at least one of these type of books where I never get to them, and then I'm no longer interested in reading them. But I remember really enjoying R.S. Gray's writing, and this is a sports romance about these 2 like, I don't know, Olympic players or something like that. I don't really know much about it, but I've heard good things, and I have no reason not to pick it up, other than the fact that like, just because it's been sitting on my TBR for so long, I've gotten used to it being there. So I might read this month. We will see what happens, but I think it will be good. So there's no reason for me not to try and pick it up. Okay, and this last book that I'm going to share with you guys today is very unlikely to be read this month. I very, very, very possibly will not read it. But when I was looking at all of the books that I want to possibly read this month to share with you guys, this one caught my eye, and I'm like, you know what? I'm feeling kind of nostalgic. Maybe I should pick it up for a reread. So that book is The Last Song by Nicholas Sparks. So interesting story. When I was, I don't know how old, maybe 12, 13 years old, whenever the movie for this book came out, I was absolutely obsessed with this story. I don't know where it is in my house, but I have one of those mass paperback copies with like the movie art on the cover, and it's literally cracked in 2. That is how many times I had read this book. So when I was younger, I used to not really realize that like I could just go to the library and get like any book that I want. So I used to just like reread the books that my siblings already owned. Like whatever book that I was into, I would read like 10 times before I asked my sisters for like another book that they own that they think I might like. Like, it was just the way that I used to read as a kid for some reason. And this was one of those books that I just had reread over and over again. I was absolutely obsessed with it, like very like, puberty, teenage sort of obsession with this book. And I mean, I didn't like the movie as much as the book, but that's besides the point. My point is that randomly a couple of months ago, I saw this cover and I'm like, why don't I buy like a nicer copy for my library? Because I literally can't put the ripped into copy in my library because it just looks so freaking bad. So I have it like somewhere else in my house. I don't even know where. But my point is that I own a nice copy of it now. And for some reason, I was thinking like it would be nice to like maybe go back and see how I look at this book as an adult, because I remember loving it as a child. Also, I don't know why, but like Nicholas Sparks is like a really famous writer, and I feel like so many people are obsessed with his books. Like, he's still coming out with new books now, and yet nobody like in the book community really talks about him, and I'm curious as to why. So I kind of want to read his book and see like what is up with him as an adult reader sort of thing. So maybe, very, very, very maybe I will get to this book. I doubt it, but it might happen. We'll see. So either way, that's my April TBR. I know it was very like out of whack, like it's an out of whack sort of TBR, but at the end of the day, like my reading is kind of out of whack. I just don't have books that I'm like so freaking excited to read right now. So hopefully I will end up buying some of those books off of my wish list, because I feel like, it would be good for me to find some books that I don't already own that I'm kind of itching to read. But with that said, let me know what you're planning to read this month. And if you enjoyed this video, then please give it a thumbs up. And if you're not currently subscribed to my channel, hit that subscribe button because I would really appreciate it. And thank you for watching. And until next time, enjoy reading.